There you go.
All right. Thank you, everyone. All right, well, everybody, welcome. Welcome online, welcome in person. This is our first ever hybrid annual meeting. It's a little different than I'm used to. The last two meetings that I've run have been totally online, and so it feels like a whole new world. Lots to pay attention to, very distracting. But it's really wonderful to be here with everybody in all the ways that we are together right now. So thank you to everybody for being here, and for everybody who tunes in later on and watches it when it's posted on YouTube. Thank you also for watching and being involved and paying attention to what we're doing. So I will start. I am the executive director of Washington State Cheesemakers Association, WASCA. My name is Courtney Johnson, in case anybody doesn't know who I am. And I'm going to introduce our board members wherever they may be. So we have John Haugen, the president, who you can't see.
Let's see. If I get over like this, you should be able to see me. Yeah.
There's John.
Hey.
There, great.
Our secretary, Jessica, is online, I believe.
Yep, there she is.
Yep, she's online. Lori Conway, our treasurer, could not be here today. She's from Conway Family Farm. And then we have Patty Chiato, who is here in the room, not on the camera side.
Hi, everybody.
Pointed over at her.
Yeah, Patty's in the house. Patty's from Fantello Farmstead Creamery. Lucas King from Evergreen Creamery, who also could not be here because he's in Columbia, unfortunately. And Dave Bain from the Meat and Cheese Festival. I don't know if he's online or not, but he is also one of our board members. And then we have the privilege of welcoming Kim Martin from Metropolitan Market, who was just appointed to the board to fill the position of Kalijah Paraska from Cheese Connection, who termed off at the end of the year. So we just want to say a special thank you to Kalijah for all of her service on the board over the last at least 3 years. I don't know if she was on the board for longer than that. But she's done a lot of great service for WASCA. So we really appreciate her and everything she's done. And we welcome Kim. So that is our current board of directors. And
Is Kim here?
no, she's
not
here today, and I don't believe she's online either. So this is going to be interesting, but I wanted to try to have them go around and introduce themselves.
That would be nice.
Yeah, say hi.
I can point the camera at people.
Yeah, we'll point the camera around the room. I guess we'll start with the people who are on Zoom, and then we can use my computer to just go around the room and do it. But maybe we'll start, just say your name, where you're coming from, whether that's like a physical location or your creamery, your business, and maybe your favorite cheese moment of 2022. To add a little cheesy challenge to it. I'll start. I'm Courtney, WASCA Executive Director and owner of Street Cheese, mobile cheese shop, and I live in Federal Way. My favorite cheese moment from 2022 is probably winning second place in the Cheesemonger Invitational for the second time. And I just put my name in the hat to compete in CMI Masters in March for a chance to go to France to compete in the Mondial du Fromage. So maybe I'll have another favorite cheese moment that's related to that. John, no, actually, we're going to go online. Let's see, let's call on the next person. I'll just call on people based on the participant list. Carrie.
Thank you. I'm Carrie Hunter. My farm is Pine Stump Farms. It's a farmstead artisan cheese production located in Okanagan County, which is up against Canada, about an hour from Canada. And my favorite cheese moment, I love the farmers markets that I take my product to, and like the contact with the people and that sort of thing. So that's probably my favorite cheese moments.
Lovely.
I've been on the board, and I'm now not on the board any longer, but I am still a WASCA member.
We thank you for your board service, for your continued support. Amy Lum.
And to find the unmute there. Hello, everybody. I'm Amy Lum. This is my cheesemaker, Crystal Mossman. We are Lum Farm. We're located in San Juan County on Orcas Island, so up in the very northwest corner of the state. And we have a farmstead, goat dairy. We also have a handful of sheep that we milk and add that into our feta. So we do chev, feta, Gouda, we make cajeta, and we also started making ice cream, goat's milk ice cream last year, which was a really big deal for us. And currently we are in the middle of a dairy expansion. We got a WSDA grant to expand our dairy capacity and some of our farm infrastructure. We just got a walk-in freezer that we turned on yesterday. So we are, I guess my favorite moment maybe was going to Seattle to the Cheese and Meat Festival and meeting Courtney and meeting some other cheese folks and just stepping off of our island out into the big world of Washington State cheeses. So looking forward to meeting more cheesemakers this year and getting off the island a little bit.
Wonderful. Danielle Miles.
Hi, sorry I don't have a camera plugged in. I'm Danielle Miles and we are down in Olympia. We don't currently make cheese for sale. We just got started in goats last year. So that's my favorite cheese moment of 2022, I guess, is having our first dairy goats. We make cheese here at the house for us, but we haven't gotten into the step of being able to sell to anyone else. So we're just here kind of to watch and see what everybody is about.
Welcome. Colleen Bryant.
Hi, I'm just joining at the enthusiast level. Been obsessed with cheese for most of my life, but starting to try to turn that into a little more, get more education and get a little bit more involved in the industry. My favorite cheese moment from last year was probably Murray's started doing virtual classes. So I signed up for a couple and they were really, really amazing, pairing classes. And so I just had a ton of fun sitting in on those and trying a couple new things.
Awesome. Thank you for being with us. We're happy to have you. Janie Duncan.
Sorry about that. I had to let my dog out before she started barking. I'm Janie Duncan, so I'm one of the specialty food Sherpas, along with Patrick Black. I represent Twin Sisters Creamery, Ferndale Farmstead, and Apple Farms. And yeah, so I'm happy to join. This is my first meeting with you guys, so just kind of checking it out and see what you guys do and how it works.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a favorite cheese moment from 2022? Or
oh gosh, maybe trying to, well, let's see, trying to grasp this, but maybe the Good Food Awards that we went to. That was super cool. But other than that, yeah, I'm kind of thrown off. So, but yeah.
That's okay. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jessica Gigot.
Hi, nice to see you guys. I'm Jessica Gigo. I'm on the board and I take notes. And I'm in Bow, Washington, an hour north of Seattle, and I have Harmony Fields. It's a micro sheep creamery. We make our cheese in a modified shipping container. And I make it sound very glamorous, but it does look kind of nice in there. I'm a big fan of shipping containers. My cheese moment is we won 2 American Cheese Society awards this year, which was super exciting after a big roller coaster ride of shipping cheese to Minnesota and having it be lost in Iowa. But anyway, it got there and that was super exciting. It was for our tome and our feta. So thanks. And thanks to Courtney and everyone for organizing this meeting. It's nice to kind of tiptoe back to sort of all being in one place. And so I know it's a lot of work. So thank you, Courtney.
And thank you to John for setting up the technology, actually.
Hopefully it keeps working.
Julia Powers. She might be driving right now.
She's got a square up there, but
Yeah, I think she's on her way to the Oregon Cheesemakers education. So, Lindsay Slavin.
Hi, everybody.
hey,
Hi, I'm Lindsay Slavin at Twin Sisters Creamery. We're up in Ferndale. And husband and I were a husband and wife cheese making team with a couple part-time employees, and we have twin daughters, and we focus on raw milk cheese. I think my favorite thing this year, actually, Courtney, was I really liked the Meet the Cheesemaker we did at Bellwood, because I hadn't been around my fellow cheesemakers for a long time. It seemed like, and it was really nice to sit in the room with all of the Whatcom County cheesemakers up in this area. So that was a really good use of time and a real highlight. Looking forward to doing more things like that, hopefully in 2023, and getting out of the building and back into the market.
Yes, yeah, I'm glad that you enjoyed that event.
Yeah, thanks for coordinating that.
Thank you.
Hey, Courtney, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. Julia Powers. I'm currently with the Peterson Company. And I have, I'm sorry to hear about the lost cheese, Jessica. I'm heading to Minnesota again in May. I've been on the JNC committee for ACS and now on the board of directors. I've been with WASCA as well on the board before, but all is in the cheese. I'm heading down to OSU for the Cheesemaker Education Day. So that's kind of my best cheese moment, is getting back into the groove. So it's good to see everybody's faces. Welcome, Janie. Welcome. Was it Jessica, the enthusiast? That's awesome to hear.
Colleen.
Take care, everybody. Have a good meeting.
Thanks, Julia. Lost Peacock Creamery.
Hi, this is Matt from Lost Peacock Creamery, and that's my wonderful wife. We're a goat cheese business. We've been in business for 6 years now. 6 years, I think, now. And our favorite cheese. Oh, and I think I said a goat dairy, and so Farmstead Artisan Cheese Company. And then favorite cheese moment was meet the maker in Olympia. That was great. We got to meet some people down south from Thurston County area and probably Pierce County, because I think Mountain Lodge is Pierce County. But yeah.
Just a whole bunch of cheese nerds.
Yes, absolutely.
Hey, Danielle, we're neighbors.
New cheesemaker from Olympia.
Yeah,
Welcome.
And a fellow goat person.
Yeah.
Yeah, make connections. All right, and then I think I got everybody online. Was there anybody online I forgot?
I see a Valerie Tobias.
Valerie, yep, Valerie.
Hey, Courtney, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I'm Valerie. I'm the marketing director for Dairy Connection, beaming in from Wisconsin, where it is ridiculously snowing outside right now. So yeah, if you're not familiar with us, we're a supplier of cultures and enzymes, and we love Washington cheese. I'm not kidding. At most of our things, we have some Washington cheese brought in. So Wisconsin cheese is great, but you guys, you know how to do it. So we're big fans, and you know, just here to kind of see if there's anything we can do to assist at any point.
Absolutely. Thank you, Valerie.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That, I believe, is everybody online. I'm sorry, I did not scroll
I see
down.
a Colleen Bryant.
Oh, Colleen introduced herself.
Okay.
She's the enthusiast. Very enthusiastic. All right, I'm going to move into the room then. And start with John since he's in front of the camera.
Woohoo. So John Haugen, I'm with the Washington State University Creamery and the WASCA president, I guess, for this year. And what was my favorite cheese moment? I don't know. There was a couple of them. The going to ACS was pretty cool and seeing how well Washington Cheesemakers did there, and being here and seeing Washington Cheesemakers all in one place. It's pretty cool. But then selling out our Cougar Gold, you know, not knowing how this whole pandemic thing's going or whatever, that was pretty exciting too. That people are still buying specialty cheese and that kind of thing. So.
Pretty awesome.
You're not giving it away.
Yeah, prices keep having to go up.
I'm gonna start on this side of the room and have everybody who's here in the darkness introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Patty from Fentanyl Farmstead Creamery, and I've been baking cheese for 5 years now, and we had a great moment down at ACS with winning second for the raclette. And going there and seeing the whole thing was kind of a big deal. Yeah, just kind of a big deal.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Jeff Hartman, Mountain Lunch Farm. Next is Gorby Just. He's also from Mountain Lunch Farm. We're a small goat dairy in Eatonville, Washington. We have had a bunch of stuff this year, including the WASCA. I really appreciated Ross Peacock and Lindsay and everybody talking about the WASCA Meat Cheesemaker. I think that was certainly a highlight for us as well, in particular, to be a speaker there. Yeah. And I guess that my real
well, there's this that should be picking
yeah.
up everybody in the room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess my personal highlight beyond just that was getting to Flambe and Halloumi this year at a farmer get together and stuff like that, seeing people's enthusiastic faces.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was mine.
Bring it over to Gorby. The hybrid logistics, and then you guys can take it.
So my name's Gorby Just. I'm the head cheesemaker at Mountain Lodge Farm, along with Jeff. And my favorite cheese moment this year was probably working on and perfecting that halloumi that Jeff was talking about in the make of it. And because we just started making it last year, and this year we really worked on it a little bit and have had a really enthusiastic reaction to it at markets and stuff. So that's always fun. So yeah.
Hey everybody, Brian Gilbert with formerly of Beecher's Handmade Cheese, now at the DPI. And I know I looked around the room with all the DPI folks out there. I don't think anybody knew that. And my own side gig, hobby, it'll become something someday, I promise, Gilbert's Cheese Experience. Now that I have weekends back. So anyways, happy to be here as always and being on the other side of the curtain.
Hi, everybody online. Hi, everyone in the room. I'm Amanda Malloy. I'm with Dairy Farmers of Washington. So I manage our retail partnerships and exports business as well. So I'm excited to learn more about how I can support you all. Favorite cheese moment of the year, probably receiving my package of Cougar Gold. That was a highlight. It's mostly gone right now. So that's my best moment. Nice to meet everyone.
Hi, everyone. I'm Corinne. I am the cheesemonger at a wine bar in Edmonds called Bendero. I run the retail department. I do the catering, platters that are in-house charcuterie, all that. It's pretty darn fun, so I eat all of the cheeses. So thank you for that. That's great. My favorite cheese moment has probably been the charcuterie classes that we started a couple months ago. They've been so fun and so like just a big hangout of eating cheese and things. And our community is really tiny and we found a lot of like cheese lovers. We didn't know we were down to that. A lot of fun.
Hi, I'm Lisa Yashka from Washington. I'm not here a little late, but we're supposed to talk about cheese highlight.
Just your highlight from last year.
Yeah. Well, I never stopped eating cheese during the pandemic, but I have to say last year I got to go to Bottom Lunch Farm, where I usually volunteer every year, every spring, and I got to hang out with Goldie and Jeff and experience the other part of cheese making, hanging out with cute goat babies. So that was definitely a highlight. Hopefully I'll get to do it again this year.
It's coming up.
Oh, yeah.
It's coming up.
Hey, everybody. Patrick Bleck here. Nice to see new and familiar faces. I'm with the specialty food Sherpa and Face Rock Creamery, which is an Oregon dairy that some of you probably are aware of. Thank you. And I've had the privilege of working with Daniel, just entered, and Nydia from Ferndale Farmstead, just entered the room, as well as Lindsay and Apple Farms, and now I've got the new and improved Sherpa Janie Duncan working with me. Which has been a great pleasure. I've known her for many, many years, so it's been we've had some good laughs, some good trips so far. One of which I think was my best moment. We drove to Portland on a day that I really tried to get out of some demo that I had agreed to, and it was one of the hottest, most dystopian days of summer, and it was in a Fred Meyer parking lot in Portland on a Saturday. And I really was desperately trying to get, I was calling all of my friends down in Portland, like, could somebody, can you please? I'm gonna pay you. It's gonna be really good. Didn't work out. So Janie and I drove down and it turned out to be kind of a really fun day, despite the truly dystopian smoke and wind. We couldn't put anything up because we had blown over. We still persevered. We had our table out. We were tasting cheese, and there was this little kid, this girl, on the other side of the venue. You can call it a venue. It was also a recycling day, so all these people were pulling up with all their crap to recycle from Meyer. Really pretty conducive to a cheese day, like you'd expect. And this girl, she must have been 8 years old, but she kept coming. She came over at least 20 times to eat some extra aged cheddar. And I was like, all right, the future is secure. That was my best day.
Right. Wearing a mask, so you can't quite see my face. But hi, I'm Shannon. I'm a member at the enthusiast level, and also I'm the division cheese specialist with QFC, a local grocer, and division of flavor. Highlight of the year cheese-wise was probably ACS. 3 of our mongers went to take the CCP, and 2 of them successfully passed. I was so proud of them and all the work they put in and all the effort they've made. And even the 3rd person, I'm sure, must have been close because it was their 2nd time taking the test. So I'm really rooting for them this next year. But and it was just great to see everybody in the cheese world again in person and touch base and reconnect a bit after being online for a couple of years. So it was a really wonderful highlight and just re-energized my enthusiasm and love for all things cheese. Yay.
Hey everyone, I'm Janae, aka the Mobile Monger. I'm a recovering cheesemonger, photographer, podcast host, just a lot of weird things. Ramshackle life. I think my favorite moments from 2022 was getting the contract with WASCA to go out and take photography at all of the farms because it marries all of the things that I love, cheese and farms and the people behind it. So that is definitely a big deal for me. So Nice to see you all.
I know you just walked in. You're Mahogany, right? Yes. Yeah. So we'll hear more from Mahogany soon. But I don't know if you want to just say hi to all the people who are in the hybrid zone.
Oh, hi, everyone. I'm Mahogany, the pickled chef.
Yeah.
Happy Friday.
All right. Do you have a favorite cheese moment of 2022 by chance while you're on the spot? And you just
Yeah. I guess it would actually be Beecher's cheese curds. I guess more cooking wise, I experimented with kind of treating them a little differently. Like I would fettuccine cheese and just had a really amazing experience with nachos with them actually. That I was just kind of like, oh my goodness, I have to do this more often. So that's it. Simple.
And then you guys want to wrap it up?
Yeah, the camera is pointing this
It's
way,
pointed
but
this
the
way.
microphone's here.
Well, this is Daniel Wavrin speaking, and Nydia is next to me here, my wife. And, we're the cheesemaker and marketing pair that run Ferndale Farmstead Creamery and Daniel's Artisan Cheese. My favorite cheese moment this year would be, I'd say this was the best ACS I've ever had. So I would definitely say for cheese. Portland was fun. What about you, Nydia?
Yeah, ACS, and just seeing everyone again. I think that was probably the highlight for me, reconnecting and saying hello. And yeah.
Hi to all of our friends. I see everybody up there. Lizzie and Julia, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. I know that we spent a lot of the scheduled time in the meeting. I just passed out the agenda to everybody in the room. But I think it was really important for us, since this is one of our only avenues to connect as a group, to really spend time getting to know each other a little bit and seeing who's here and finding new connections and rekindling old connections and so forth. So moving on in the agenda, John, do you have anything you'd like to say just to kick off the meeting?
Oh, I left Pullman this morning. First, I went to work and did a couple things, and then started driving at 6-ish. And there was nobody on the road except a couple deer. Thankfully, I didn't run into those. And then coming over to Seattle, it's like, boy, I'm glad I live in Pullman. The traffic over here, and trying to find a place to park. But then once I did find a place to park, I started walking through some of the, down through the buildings, and it's like, there's some really neat architecture in Seattle and a lot of really neat restaurants like this one. And it's really cool to be here with all y'all, cheesemakers from Washington. It just struck me that, I mean, this last year, it seemed like it was really difficult to start getting back into doing in-person things. And Courtney, I really appreciate what she's done, and I'm so glad we had the grant worked out so she could start putting her energies into that, because she's been a big part of some of the things that you guys mentioned that were your best cheese moments of the year, of people getting together and doing Meet the Cheesemakers, which I know that cheese enthusiasts love to do that kind of thing. But like I say, it's been difficult, and even like we have our cheese making short course at WSU coming up the first week of March 7th through 9th. We're having a hard time getting people in that, so it's still like challenging getting people in, and I know a lot of companies are having a hard time getting employees hired and that kind of thing too, but it seems like it's moving in the right direction. So it's nice to have everybody here on one place or online. So welcome.
All right, I will quickly give the treasurer's report. So technically the board treasurer is Lori Conway from Conway Family Farms. So I will just say that as of the end of 2022, WASCA had $26,556.58 in the bank. We have the grant in addition to that. So for last year, including the federal funds that we drawn from the grant, we brought in a total of $94,891. So that grant makes a significant difference in the amount of money that we have to work with. And we spent $93,000. So we spent, it's the grant money goes out, we pay for it out of WASCA's pocket, and then it gets reimbursed. So we didn't have to spend those monies, and then we brought in $12,990 in membership dues last year. So that keeps the organization afloat for the costs that we have of doing business, like filing our annual reports, paying for Zoom, paying for a mailbox. Because of the grant, we have an accountant now, which is a big deal. So hopefully we can continue to develop new revenue sources over the next few years so that we can continue to reap the benefits of the projects that are coming out of this original grant. This is our first ever grant. Are there any questions about the finances of the organization? We have money.
When's the renewal of that start?
The renewal.
It was a 3-year deal, right?
It was a 3-year grant, yeah. So the grant period started September 2022 before we didn't find out about it until the end of October, which is cool.
Okay.
And then it ends September 2024. So we have until September 29th, 2024. And then at that point, we need to have either applied for a new USDA grant or found something else. And I believe the USDA takes applications for the Farmers Market Promotion Program and the Local Food Promotion Program grants in March or April. Is when they open that application period. So that's something that in this year and next year, the grant writing committee will have to really be laser focused into is how we're going to approach that.
Right.
What kind of projects do we want to keep from this round of funding, and what kinds of things do we want for the future? Like one of the things that we did find over the past year is there were a lot of things that we said we wanted to do when we wrote the grant proposal and turned it in June of 2021. And then by, last June, everybody's priorities had changed and what was possible was a little bit different. So luckily we're able to adapt within the framework that we've created, but it also gives us kind of a good point to recollect and think, okay, so maybe we're not going to do this in the future, but what else do we need? So that's one thing is that, if people need things, I really want to hear what do we need? I heard last year, we need money to send people to trainings, conferences, support for awards, submissions. So stuff to help onboard employees and get them trained in food safety and other things. So what kinds of things do we need and how can we find the money to do it? Continue to create benefits and keep everybody floating along, making cheese, eating cheese, and selling cheese. And writing grants. Now that we've started writing grants, we cannot stop writing grants. We're always going to be writing grants. All right. Moving right along into the grant updates section. Kind of started that. I do have a lengthy document if anybody is curious during the meeting, and I can share it with anybody online if they want, where I just did a kind of a year in review. If you want it, you can pop it into the, I can put your email in the chat and I'll send you an email with it later. I'm not going to share screen on it because it's 36 pages long. And we would need to schedule another meeting to go through it, but it basically just says, where did we spend the money last year? Who benefited from it? What was our sort of budget for 2022? And then what are we looking at in the future?
Can I just ask a quick question? Is that's a requirement in order for this money to be accessed, basically, right? That you're doing all this incredible work.
Yes.
So I just want to say thank you, because that's just a ton of work to actually make it happen. Not only just to get it,
right,
but to preserve it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I have to communicate every year with you all of our members, all the stakeholders, anybody who wants to know what we're doing and how we're doing it. And our grant advisors from the USDA Agriculture Marketing Service are going to be coming out this spring to meet in person too, to go over documents for everything to make sure we're doing everything right. So we'll find out.
I'm sure we are. I can't imagine we're not.
But basically we spent less than a third of the money that we had allotted to us last year because we had 6 months where we weren't working on the grant because didn't know we had it, and then couldn't start because the USDA and HHS software wasn't up and running, and then we thought we were going to get a training, and then the training never happened, and then it was like, okay, go. So we're a little behind on the timeline that we started with, but I think we're going to make up some good ground this year. And we do have a page on the website that tells you kind of all of our initiatives and where we're working at, and I update that regularly with what's happening. And I just wanted to shout out a couple of things that are happening. So if PCQI training, that could be for cheesemakers or food processors, possibly even retailers. Mark Bates from Bates Consulting is giving a PCQI training February 13th through 15th down in Chehalis. So if anybody needs to take that, he has a pretty significant discount that he's offering to WASCA members. It's like $300 off the cost of the training. So highly recommend that. And you get the certification afterwards that you can use for, I think you can use that for third-party audits, right? Yeah. So it's a good thing if you want to get into retail. We also have, as John mentioned, the advanced cheesemaking short course at WSU Creamery and the pasteurization workshop. Short course is March 7th through 9th, coming up quickly, and then the pasteurization workshop is April 25th through 27th. And so those are basically 2 courses that WSU is offering as part of like an in-kind match to help us. We have to provide a match for grant money. We asked for so much, we had to say we're going to submit this much. So they promised to hold these classes and make them available during this period of time to help us fulfill our obligations. So those are happening and taking registration right now. Dairy Farmers of Washington has also provided an online self-guided food safety training, which is not free, but we have a discount code that makes it free if you are a WASCA member. It can help if you're writing a HACCP plan or need like basic food safety training. I think it's called Food Safety Basics. And they also have a deck of information with food safety resources that's in like a PowerPoint that's saved as a PDF. Super helpful, especially if anyone has new employees that they're onboarding or wants to do a refresher. So that resource is available to us through the grant. Also, the Cheesemakers voted, and Washington Cheese Month is June. So congratulations, we have a month when we're going to celebrate cheese. It also happens to be Dairy Month. So all things dairy all the time in June. I am working on planning some activities for that and hopefully kicking off some projects in June. One of the things that I am doing is talking about starting a Bellingham Cheese and Beer Festival in June, because we have one of the highest concentrations of cheesemakers in the state up in that corner, and also a very high concentration of breweries, some of whom have nice big spaces for hosting events. So we're talking about planning that right now. We also are doing a retail marketing campaign through the grant, which we're not providing funds for promotions. That was something we're not allowed to do with the grant money, but we can provide signage, marketing materials, and a cheesemonger education program. So all of those things will be available for retailers if they want to do it during June or another month of the year that works better for their promotional calendar if they want to do it another time. The details of that we still need to work out because people expect promotions with that. So we have to negotiate how we want to do that in a way that makes everybody happy and is beneficial and also allows us to celebrate Washington cheese. And the Cheesemonger Education Program is another project that we're working on in concert with that. So Wisconsin has a similar program where it's kind of like basics for cheesemongers or folks who are interested in cheese, and you use Wisconsin cheeses as the building blocks that you work with. So we're working on something like that with Washington cheeses, and hopefully this is a really big project, but an archive of Washington cheeses with tasting notes. So we'll see if we can do that. We promised we would, so we're going to try.
Which committee is that under?
So that is just all under the umbrella of the grant, but I think the Cheesemonger Education Program, I am thinking about starting a committee just for that. like a little ad hoc committee of people who are interested in helping get that going. So if that's something people are interested in, like, let's do it. Any other questions about grant related stuff? All right.
How do you personally feel about the success of the grant this year? Just got a feeling.
I think I am always stressed out about like getting things done on time and like squeezing every drop of money out of the grant that we applied for, because we have it. But I think that the initiatives that we did, like the Meet the Cheesemakers series, went really well. And I think we did a good job of adapting, because we originally had written into the grant that we were going to do a spring cheese festival, and then actually talking to people, it was like nobody wants to do any festival in the spring because we're calving, kidding, lambing, farmers markets are starting, and everybody was short staffed. So it was like, okay, well, we're not going to do that. What are we going to do with this funding? So we turned it into support to send Cheesemakers to ACS for Meet the Cheesemakers, to hopefully make, you know, contacts with other retailer distributor accounts, cheesemongers, and also to support folks going to the meat and cheese festivals, so that they could either have a table space or have their cheeses represented there by a cheesemonger, because the biggest problem last year was a lot of folks just couldn't get off the farm or couldn't leave. So we were able to use that money to turn it around and say, okay, well, how do we get that representation? People want to be seeing the cheese and they want to be eating the cheese, but we can't get the cheese there. So how do we do that? So I think those things were a success. But there's a lot of work to do this year. It's a little daunting. So we'll get there. All right. No questions online. Moving on. And if you have questions at any time about the grant, like feel free to send me an email to any of my email addresses that you have from me. Like I'm happy to talk about it or fill you in, or we are being very transparent, not just because we're required to, but because it helps us all. We're going to move into committee updates quickly. I'll start with the grants committee. So actually I'll start here. So we have 5 committees that are our standing committees with WASCA. And as it stands right now, 2 of them don't have chairs and none of them have members. So we're really, I know that like everybody is strapped super thin on time and bandwidth, and we all are reevaluating our lives after the last few years and probably wanting to work less. But if you have any bandwidth whatsoever to volunteer on any of the committees at all, like we would be so gracious. I have a sign up sheet for the people in the room. And then if you're interested and you're tuning in online, you know, you can either put your information in the chat or send it to me directly, and I will connect you with a committee chair, or not necessarily coerce you into being a chair if there is no chair of the committee. I am technically on all the committees, and I was reading in the bylaws that technically John is in all the committees too. So, you know, that it won't just be, you know, technically I'm the chair if there's nobody on the committee. So, but I don't like being in charge of everything. So please make it stop. So we have 5 committees, the grants committee, the education and regulations committee, the buying committee, marketing, and then membership. So I'll start with the grants committee, which basically we haven't had a meeting in a while. We tend to meet more in the springtime, leading up to and going into grant season. And just to reiterate what I said earlier, you know, if there are needs, we need to know what they are so that we can write them into a grant. It's easier to write the grant application if we know what we need and figure out what grants to apply for. It is tricky because we're a 501c6 nonprofit. There are many, many fewer opportunities available to us than there are for 501c3s. So that makes it challenging. A lot of things we just don't qualify for, but if something we do qualify for, like we have to get it, right? That's what we need to jump on. So that's the grant committee update. Education and regulations. Jessica, do you want to take a moment and fill us in on what you're doing?
Sure. And I'll, you know, be transparent as well, is that I'm not doing a lot, but I am working on it. Courtney mentioned some of the, the trainings that are going to be available, the PCQI with Mark, and then we're looking into possibly having a third party audit type training like we did with Claudia Coles in, the fall of 2019, I think is when that was, in Seattle. So may not be with her, but something like that on the training side. But any ideas that you guys have for trainings? We're really trying to address, what are the educational needs and what will make, membership feel valuable to you in terms of free educational opportunities. But what we are going to try to do is a seminar series. And so we've got, it's taken a while to get a hold of people, but we have a few speakers lined up. So we'll be offering like a webinar online type speaker series with a cheesemaker in Missouri and an international cheesemaker, as well as a graduate student who's been doing some work on cheese and marketing. I guess we'll kind of get it set up first and then we'll share the specific details with you, but that's something that I'll be working on this week or this month and trying to launch that in, late February, early March. But if anybody's interested in getting involved in education or wants to help with these trainings or webinars, feel free to reach out to me or Courtney. I guess I'm a one-person committee right now, but that's kind of how it's been for a while. I guess the goal for the next little bit here is to get the seminar series going and then trying to get 1 to 2 technical trainings available either for free or at a pretty good rate for members. And the seminar series will be free, but it'll be open to only members of the organization. I think that's it. Anything I'm missing, Courtney?
That sounds like everything that I can think of right now.
Okay,
So,
great.
Thank you. All right, as for the buying committee, so that committee was actually chaired by Kalijah until she termed off the board. And the goal of the buying committee is to get discounts for members, and then to also see if we can get bulk buying power as an organization among all of our members. Traditionally, the discounts that we had were like cultures, packaging, cheese molds, stuff like that. During COVID, either the discounts got smaller or they went away altogether. And so Kalijah recommended disbanding the committee until things were more stable. I've heard the California Artisan Cheese Guild is looking into starting their buying program up. So if you have ideas of anything that we should look into for discounts or bulk opportunities for the membership, or if you want to be involved in trying to figure out and negotiate those types of relationships, like let's get it started again. Because I'm sure there are things that a lot of people need, and if there's a way for us to pool resources, we can make it more affordable. Everybody knows that every little bit helps. That's the bulk buying committee. Marketing committee also doesn't have a chair if you are passionate about communications and marketing. So the marketing committee does a lot of outward facing outreach for Washington cheese to consumers, home cheesemakers, anybody on the internet. We do a lot of social media, although we've been kind of quiet in January. So last 2 years, we did a rotating cheesemaker spotlight program where every month we had a different creamery that was a cheesemaker member that we got pictures and information and posted about them all month long. And those are all posted on the website now. Everybody has their own little page and it's like a little scrapbook. And I think we were talking about maybe kind of going back through the cycle, maybe not. I think last time we went counterclockwise around the state from Eastern Washington. So this time we might start alphabetical order and go through the group that way to kind of mix it up and see what new pictures and information we can get and just remind people about our cheesemakers. And we also have our website that got redesigned last year that we're always working on updating. So those are like the big things from the marketing committee. And then we have the membership committee, which is chaired by Patrick Bleck.
The only reason I agreed to come down here was I sent Courtney a note. I said, I've done nothing on membership, so you have to take membership details. I actually just signed up for membership So I'm adding to the group that I'm ostensibly leading.
Please, thank you.
So
Thank you for rejoining.
yes.
Yes, Patrick has been our membership committee chair since I've come on, and he's done a great job.
I signed up on mine before I got here, so I wouldn't have to answer today.
Got a membership bag.
Yeah, we have membership bags. If you haven't gotten a WASCA logo bag, if you're in the room, there are bags. We have maps and we have brochures. So share the membership love.
We have lots of plans. They just haven't been executed.
Yeah.
I would have to say, right?
Yeah. So we're in the middle of our 2023 membership renewal drive right now, reminding we're on a monthly renewal. So if you renewed in January, you renew in January. If you renewed in February, your membership's good through February or March or whatever. So if you joined or renewed in April of last year, you don't need to worry about it until April. But we just started that program in November, and we're about, I would say, a third of the way renewed on members. So last year we had pretty good growth in membership. Based on dues, we went up about $1,000. So we gained some new members, which is wonderful because strength in numbers. And one thing that Patrick and I will be kicking over that came out of the Cheesemaker, or out of the grant happy hour we did last year, was some cheesemakers had asked for a cheesemonger level of membership to really like help get more cheesemongers involved and give them a platform to be part of the organization in a meaningful way. And so we're going to be talking about how to do that and how that makes sense. So if you're interested in helping us to maintain or grow our membership, have ideas of people who should be part of the organization or ways that we can make this an organization people want to be part of, you can join the membership committee.
Exactly.
Is that from new members joining or people upping their status from enthusiast to business and such?
It was mostly, well, part of it was one of our corporate sponsors accidentally renewed twice. Valerie's off the call now, so I can call out Dairy Connection. They were just so excited to be members. They renewed twice, so we don't get their money this year, but you know, it's in the bank. We did gain new enthusiast and business members, and we actually got more corporate sponsors last year than we've had, which is really nice to see more like distributors and retailers getting involved. So
Is DPI still on there?
DPI is still on there.
Okay, good.
Yes, especially with so many DPIers.
There is more. There is a lot more to be done. I mean,
Yes.
honestly, I would welcome any input. Anybody that is willing to just call me and say, "What have you done?"
His features on there?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Of course, yeah.
Not that I need to care.
That's why we're here.
No, it's. I think it is super important, right? And it's wonderful. Is it Colleen? We have an enthusiast who is on the call.
Yes.
I think that's the first.
But I think that is a first too, that we have.
Yeah, you're a dude too.
You're an
Yes.
enthusiast, but you're also in the industry.
Yeah.
So-
Yes. Well, really, we're all enthusiasts.
Yeah, we're all enthusiasts. That's why we're here. So any questions about committees, committee work? All right, well, I hope that folks will sign up.
I just wanted, Courtney, I just wanted to say that don't forget about the Peterson Company too, all you DPI people, I love you forever.
Oh, thank you, yes. Bravo, Peterson.
All right, now I feel like I have to say thank you to our sponsors. Dairy Connection, DPI, Ferndale Farmstead, Fromage X just upgraded from business to corporate sponsor, Metropolitan Market, Peterson Cheese, and the Puget Sound Food Hub. So I think that's a strong group of folks who are helping to rise the tide for everybody else. So thank you to everyone.
Yeah, I only said that about DPI because there's a new employee here. I want to make sure.
To be fair, I know more people at Peterson than
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening to all of these kind of updates. As far as general announcements go, I'll just say that our newsletter is going to come out on Monday next week. So there are going to be a lot of announcements in the newsletter. There are a lot of things that are open for application right now. Festivals that are planning for this spring that really want cheesemakers to be present. That's the call that I'm hearing more than anything is we really want cheese to be here. How do we get cheese to be here? Like, can you please bring the cheese? So a lot of our neighbors in Oregon are planning the Oregon Cheese Festival. California Artisan Cheese Guild is planning their festival. There's a festival in San Diego called Liquid City that wants cheesemakers there too. So everybody wants cheese. Lots of opportunities and also some guild discounts. So if you wanted to go to the California Artisan Cheese Guild, and you're a WASCA member, they'll give you a California Guild member discount to have a table. Oregon just wants everybody there, so they lowered their price for cheesemakers to $50 this year for the table. And we also have a guild discount with the Vermont Cheese Council for their Winter Artisan Cheesemakers conference, which is it's the target audience is cheesemakers, but anybody can attend. Enthusiasts, people in the industry, and get 2 days of cheese education, and we have a discount code for that everybody should have gotten in their emails. So be on the lookout for the newsletter and all the updates, including also that ACS is open for entries to judging and competitions, and there's a very short window on that this year. So the talk that Jessica mentioned that we're going to be having in the fall is a paper that basically said consumers are more likely to buy cheese if it had an award or if there are tasting notes. So let's get some awards. Obviously, our cheeses are worth it. So, all right. Any questions at this time?
About the website. How has the machinery, there was one section of sort of like the cheesemaker ads and stuff like that. Have we had any success of going between machinery that's gone from one farm to another farm within Washington so far? I've seen a couple and it's been kind of like stationary. I just want to like feel out how that's going. If
Yeah,
people like it.
there were, so on the cheesemaker classifieds page, we did have some equipment that got sold on there. I think more than anything, we've had people looking for stuff too. I think there was somebody looking for butter making equipment. I think an enthusiast looking for butter making equipment. And then Mount Townsend Creamery had some stuff that they're just having a hard time getting rid of. And then Molalla, is it the Molalla Cheese Company with Corrine Golden, also has some cheese making equipment that she's having a hard time finding a home for. And then the job postings are, you know.
That's interesting. They're looking for.
Mhm.
That'd be nice to keep it going.
Yeah.
Put actual.
Yeah, I think if we can like get more stuff on there more frequently, like hopefully people will look at it more and it'll be more useful to everybody. But yes, we have these classifieds. If you need equipment, there is equipment posted. And if you want to get rid of equipment, let us post it. Any other questions? Online? Hopefully Carrie's connection is okay. She was having a moment. Valerie had to leave. All right, so I would say at this time our chefs are here. If you want to get some cheese, take a moment. I'm going to invite them to come sit down for their panel. One of our chefs unfortunately couldn't make it. Jonathan from Skoll was in a car accident right when the meeting started and is waiting for a tow truck. So he won't be here. He's like, well, he hasn't responded, but I think he's fine. It was okay enough to text, so we will miss him because I think he was excited to be here. But we have, I think the other three are here. So we'll go ahead and welcome them in and get them in front of the camera.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, that is.
I was.
Yes, and then it took over. I was, if you go to stays within their
iPhone maps tell me where my car's parked. If it has a Bluetooth connection, like if you're using your phone in the car. That's the parking
Three want to sit here. Yeah. Here. Feel like you're in the hot seat.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
I was thinking I should get my glasses.
Yeah, sure. I was just trying to get the room.
It does. Well, because I'm next to you.
I think it's the angle. You look tall too. I
My
look really
feet are
tall.
dead. My feet are dead.
All right.
This week.
But yeah, seriously, if anybody wants any cheese maps, brochures, I have some stickers and bags, like please take. All right. Like, don't be afraid to get cheese at any point.
I thought I just saw two.
Eat cheese. All right, so the more exciting part of our meeting, well, I mean, getting to see everybody and like hear from everybody is equally exciting. I am honored to, got my back to people. I am honored to introduce our esteemed panel of chefs who will serve as our guest speakers today to talk about the role that cheese plays in their world. So I'm going to introduce them quickly and then we'll have them talk a little bit more about themselves and then y'all can ask any burning questions that you have. I don't know if anybody remembers the cheesemonger panel that we had a few years ago during the cheese festival meeting. I think everybody really enjoyed that. So hopefully this will be equally enlightening for everyone. So to the far side, we have Paul Rosquita from the Gates Foundation.
Yep.
And then we have Mahogany Williams, who is the pickled chef. And then Karin Jorgensen, who comes to us from the Seattle Culinary Academy. So thank you all three for being here with us today. If you would like to just kind of go down the line and tell us a little bit about who you are and where you are in the food world and how you got there. Yeah.
Sure. Do I start?
Sure.
Okay. So I teach at Seattle Culinary Academy, and we use cheese for education. So we do a lot of first quarters. The students learn how to like what types of cheeses there are, and the differences between mixed or mold ripened cheeses and so forth. And so then students progress. In third quarter, they learn to stretch mozzarella and make some ricotta and some paneer. And then when they get to me, I teach in the fourth quarter. We have a restaurant there, and so we have cheese on the menu. We do lots of different dishes with cheese in it, but we also teach a cheese and how to create a cheese plate for a restaurant service. So what those challenges can be, and how to create one, and that and to make any money off of it as well, which involves wine. And then summers I spend at Quillisasket Farm, Quillisasket Cheese Company in Eastern Washington. Rice, been around for a long time. And for the last 20 years, I've been the chef instructor at their farm to table program. So.
Oh, hi, I'm Mahogany Williams, and I'm the founder of The Pickled Chef. I started this company out of need during the COVID time. I was laid off. I was a chef at a hotel,
And, you know, we were laid off March 13th. I can remember the day, and I kind of had to figure it out a few months later. And I started the Pickled Chef as a catering company, a pop-up catering company that focused on pickled items. Our motto is we pickle shit. So we pickle just the most random things ever. And that was kind of what I do. With the catering though, however, I did a lot of cheese boards that actually became, you know, the thing that people really loved is matching my pickled grapes with cheeses. And so I worked with a winery called Elsom's Winery in off of 4th Avenue in Soto, and we did a lot of cheese and wine pairings, and it was just an eye opener for me because I also attended Seattle Culinary Academy, so I had a really good baseline of cheese, but definitely working in this industry as a caterer and having to make a profit, so I had to really learn more about cheeses, especially to cut them, working with some purveyors like Dinah's and going direct to, you know, the cheese mongrels and getting it direct, and that really helped me save my business as a caterer and survive during those times when it was hard to survive off of food for a living.
I'm Paul Rosquita, so I'm the executive chef at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation right down the street. We do contracted food service for all the employees and any events on site. So we serve a large population of people daily. Previous to that, I grew up in restaurants since I was a teenager. I've been cooking for about 30 years. And I've worked in small restaurants, larger restaurants, catering companies, and that all kind of helped me get to where I'm at. And for the use of cheese, we use a lot of cheese in catering for platters, and we also run a cafe, so lots of cheese for pizza and deli and those things. So hopefully I can provide some perspective on larger volume needs, I guess. That's why I'm here.
Any like immediate questions that anybody has? I have questions if y'all don't.
I have one question. Just curious on from a culinary education standpoint. It's Karen.
Karen. Yeah.
Sorry. What's the general level of incoming students in terms of cheese knowledge, would you say, on a scale of 1 to 10?
Probably 2.
Okay.
I mean, occasionally we have somebody who's just crazy about cheese, and we've had 2 or 3 cheesemonger students in the last 10 years that have come through that work at delis. Okay. But yeah, I would say 2.
Yeah, that
yeah, I think that's pretty
doesn't
good.
really surprise me, I guess, in a sense. I mean, it's a self-selected group, so they're interested in food. So
yeah,
you might expect it to be a little bit higher, but to me, it just illustrates again, like how much headroom there is in the category to just introduce to everyone, essentially, like the wonderful world of cheese and Washington cheese in particular.
Paul, do you find that to be the same with staff coming into?
Yeah, currently, I mean, staff is hard to find in Seattle, so I'll take who I can get. The knowledge specifically on cheese is, I would say it's a 1 for me. It's funny, so yeah, kind of through my career, I picked up things here and there, and I love cheese. My wife and I lived in France for 4 months, so we eat cheese pretty much daily, but not a lot of people are like that, especially not in the last decade. I think it's finding seasoned people that understand specifics about anything that we do, especially cheese, is pretty rare, I would say.
I have kind of a follow-up to what you're all talking about. Of the low percentage, are those people really excited about it, or is it intimidating? So I find like everybody that kind of comes in, they would be excited about it, but they're just intimidated by it, which surprises me because it seems as though some of the other categories and or tasks or skill would be more intimidating than stepping into cheese. But do you find that small percentage is genuinely excited? Or are they nervous?
Yeah, I would say there's excitement, but I also think so. Like cheese is expensive, so if I get a new person or someone that's green, I'm not going to say, you know, go build a cheese platter for 200 people because they don't understand how to present it and cut it, and like you were saying. So yeah, there's a huge piece of education before I'll actually let go of high cost items like that. But it's typically when someone comes and says, oh, what is that? Or, how are you doing that? Then I'll educate them a lot more on the process and where it came from and what kind of milk was used.
I think for students, most of them are really excited unless cheese is not part of their culture, in which case they do not like cheese and not going there. And so, but most of the students are really excited about it.
Yeah. And I can just say from my perspective of being a student and then a chef and then having to, use it in my livelihood, that it definitely wasn't necessarily intimidating. It was just something that wasn't knowledgeable to me besides Tillamook. I mean, I grew up in Washington and that's probably the only thing that was ever in my household was Tillamook cheese. So that was my relation to cheese. However, as I got older and saw it in grocery stores, like the way that QFC does it now, or Fred Meyer's where they have, cheese cutters there, little slices that you can get so you can try something else. And it's not so this big block of cheese that you got to spend $90 on. And if you don't know how to cut it correctly or eat it, then, your experience is ruined. So I think that it's gotten better, but I could also attest to that if it's not part of your culture, it's probably something that you're just like, whoa. But the first time I made mozzarella was mind blowing and I loved it. And it was something that I wish was more common for people to know that it's so easy and it's fun to do if you can have the resources to do it. So, and then I can also say going to France was probably where I really did start to fall in love with cheese.
What are some, sorry, question over here. That's the goal. What are some of your top considerations when selecting cheese to purchase, an artisan cheese to purchase?
I'll let you go. You buy it on a big thing.
So I work for a really large company and there's restrictions on who I can purchase from. And so I'll first go through the avenues of where I can get that. And then some of the platforms I use have other products available. So if I can sneak in new stuff or stuff that I know I like that's not technically approved, that's how I do it. I go through the bigger vendors because it's typically available.
Yes.
So if I go through a smaller distributor, I'll say, I need 20 pounds of camembert, and they're well, we can send you, 4 or 5 ounce wheels. Like, okay, I can make that work, but I don't know if it's worth your while to ship that out.
If you have larger parties, it sounds like, obviously.
Yeah.
Are you going through all of it or do you have to hold on to it? So in turn, are you looking for longer age cheeses that will hold, or are you able to bring in the more interesting, not that soft is more interesting than hard, but like things that can be maybe not as familiar to people that know harder cheeses?
Yeah, I'll do both. I mean, we will typically use everything within the shelf life period. So if I bring in 80 pounds of cheese, maybe I only need 50 pounds for an event, but I know there's more events coming, or I can use it in a grab and go or in a sandwich, or I'll kind of plan it out so I'm not tossing lots and lots of cheese. Yeah.
How important is local to your menuing?
So that's a big question. You want to start on that one, or are you asking me?
I mean, I shoot for local each time as much as possible, truthfully. And I also do some menu writing for different restaurants around town. Specifically right now, I'm working with the Wild Rose and developing a food program with them. And we started doing cheese trays and things like that. However, I did find out, very quickly that with that particular customer locale, anything that they weren't familiar with, they wouldn't eat. And so if I'm there to put a cheese that's not, special little batch thing of Humboldt or something of that nature, they just won't go for it. But what they love, I hate to say it, Beecher cheese curds, a Fontina, a brie obviously is really, it's approachable for people. And every once in a while when I was catering, I'd get asked for that Cougar Gold, which I never even tried. I don't know. Nice. And I was like, I couldn't get my hand on it. Yeah, I couldn't get my hands on it. I was like, okay, I got to get this Cougar Gold. And so I will have to hit you up for a card.
Face rock curds though?
There you go. There are. It's just familiar names for customers. That's what gets them to buy things. And right now people are, I think, craving towards familiarity more than just something new because of pricing. So when you go to out there, sometimes it just won't sell.
I guess I'm the queen of local, but I think it's hard. And in my restaurant experience, I think some of the things, to answer your question a little bit earlier, considerations are, it might be cheeses that I love, or I'm or teach my students even, these are ways to select cheeses, but you have to consider whether it comes in a 10-pound wheel and you have a 30-seat restaurant, or it comes, what I need versus what Paul needs is very different. And so, so I'm teaching my students to ask those kind of questions. If you're dealing with a local producer, maybe they don't milk all year round, maybe they're, or they get a newspaper write-up and they're out of cheese by, and you had planned it for your menus, right? So, or the weather gets too hot and they can't ship from wherever. So, encouraging my students to like make a little paper menu instead of laminating it and committing yourself fully to it. But I think that in a restaurant, especially a smaller restaurant, you can engage a clientele with the local cheese, and I think people feel like they hear a story, and that story is way more attainable if it's local. Then they get excited about the cheese. I think that they make that connection as this is something that's part of their local culture, and so then they're looking for it more. So.
And so to answer the question, local is very important. So I worked for Karn for years, and I kind of inherited that from her. So it's a priority to have a local cheese on every cheese platter. Like I said, the ordering can be difficult for me to get a variety and the quantity that I need. And then also the people that are building it. So catering, my chef de cuisine runs catering. So I'll go to him and say, hey, we need cheese. What do you want? And then I'll go through. So I go through the Puget Sound Food Hub. They have some cheeses, Alexis Food. They have some, it's more Oregon, but I consider it local cheeses. I'll find the varieties and the quantity that I can get, and then I'll piece it kind of backwards from there. So I do make it a point to get local cheeses on the cheese boards.
Is it part of URS dining?
It is.
Okay.
Compass Group.
Compass Group, yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I'm in the Bon Appetit sector of Compass.
Yeah.
We're graded on that. So I have to hit 20% local purchases annually.
Right.
And so that piece is big to get there. So not only is it important to me personally, but I have to hit the numbers in the big corporate world.
That's good. I think that helps everyone. I mean, and it's not just a marketing thing. The local part. I mean, people want to be engaged, but there's the whole climate change, reality of supporting a local food system versus. I mean, I love Roquefort, right? But it's a long ways away.
Yeah.
And I can get fabulous blue cheese from Ferndale, and so there's that piece. But I feel like too, maybe people still, this has been my experience over the last 20 years, 15 years ago, local cheese at a restaurant could be a throw of the dice, meaning the quality level was not always like what you would expect.
Mhm.
And I think there's still people that kind of labor under that misimpression to some extent.
Of
People that
local
are into-
specifically? Of local specifically?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they do, or it's super expensive or
Yeah.
whatever. Like it's not as and really it's the reverse now. I mean, I think we all know that, like the quality of cheese making in this country has just, grown exponentially in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I love that 20% of your purchases
Yeah.
have to be local. That's great.
Well, and now that I say that, I mean, there's another standard I'm supposed to hit, which is our sustainability goals. So I also get graded on that. Well, one of the biggest contributors to that goal is cheese reduction. And so they want to see reduction in cheese purchases over a certain amount of time because
of the perception of sustainability. It's interesting.
Yeah. So going deep into the sustainability piece, our client, their goal is to go carbon neutral by a certain time. So trying to make it all make sense, there's a lot for me anyway. It's like, okay, I want to stay local, cheese is a way to do it, but I'm supposed to be reducing.
I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but there is a lot of information about the reality of sustainability of dairy versus the perception. So that might be
There's
something.
a lot of numbers out there, yeah.
There are.
It's really hard to hear you, Patrick, on some of the comments from
I
the
was
back.
just saying, Julia, if, and maybe you can vouch for me, that there's a lot of misperceptions about the dairy industry and its contribution to, diminishing our climate, right? That actually there's a lot of good science that refutes that pretty convincingly.
I think you can have kind of both sides to it, can't you? You can the whole thing about carbon neutral. So many creamery that are utilizing every single moment to make sure they don't have any kind of waste. I mean, of course, the newest trend is to use whey to create liquor. Hey, we all like a cocktail. But to make sure that me as a distributor and a cheesemonger by trade, that I'm sharing those stories of those farms, and that's called education. So sometimes you're talking from a compass group, which has like direct, hey, you have to satisfy this, this, and this. But what about menu creation? What about meeting with someone who's an advocate for these farmers that really make some fantastic cheeses that will be able to sustain you through a seasonal time, perhaps.
It sounds like, which conversation that we've had in our industry a lot in the last year is really that we need to be a little bit louder and more aggressive with making sure that viewpoint is heard and seen, so that these large decisions that are being made that have these ripple effects, that they're being made in a fully informed way and reflect the way that things are on the ground. Yeah, that's tough.
To move a little bit from styles and palate choice to milk choice, like in cheese, you're sitting in a room with a lot of different cheese producers, and historically when people think of cheese, they think of cow cheese, certainly in this country. How do you think, in your experience, that's been evolving? Are people looking for more sheep and goat cheeses, or is it kind of cow is still king?
I think goat. I mean, I kind of lead towards goat cheeses, truthfully, when I look for cheeses. I have found that a lot of people do, especially when I worked at Terra Plata and that kind of type of restaurant, they preferred sheep. And we actually, we used to have the cheese bus lady, I forget the name of her business, but she used to come in a bus with the cheeses, and we'd get to go out there and pick cheeses.
From Peterson, I think.
Yeah.
The cheese.
Izzy,
Yeah.
What was that? What was the name of the bus?
Peterson.
Peterson.
Peterson?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And so the cheese, we used to just call her the cheese lady, and she would just come to our restaurant and we'd just get out there. And we would always go right to the sheep stuff, because we just had a lot of customers prefer that.
Why do you think that is?
I think maybe because they can't get in stores maybe so regularly, and maybe it's in a big portion in the store, but here it's, at Terra Plata, we're going to put it on a nice platter, and it's going to be more servable and approachable. And a lot of people at the table a lot of times maybe have an allergy to dairy. So, our servers there would educate people like, hey, we actually have goat cheese here, and that can go down totally different than dairy. And it's, I think education, once again, to the differences.
It really has evolved. Because I remember when goat cheese was like, ooh. But now I think sheep's cheese is maybe a little less known here
Yeah, I agree
in
with that.
Washington.
Yeah.
Than, yeah.
I try to represent all three on the catering. Our catering menus aren't no specific cheese on there. So as we build them, we put a variety of milk, different milk cheeses on there. And when the platters come back, they're empty. So I think as long as it's there, the people are eating it. Catering things are paid for, so they're not as concerned about, can I take a little or a lot? Like when there's a cheese platter, it's pretty much cleaned up. So what they're looking for, they're looking for it all from our account anyway.
If there's a just another consideration when we're buying cheese. That's one of the considerations. Often when you're putting a cheese plate together, platter or a plate, you are thinking, you know, maybe you're going to show three ages of goat cheese or 3 goat cheeses from different producers. If you're doing, maybe that's more of a white tablecloth restaurant where or a tasting menu kind of thing. But otherwise, you're probably looking to show 3 milk types.
I guess to follow that up, so in terms of price point as well, do you think that has affected sort of more, we'll call them unusual cheeses and stuff like that, as solo items on menus in particular, because all 3 of you have done menu development, stuff like that? There are now cheese courses are much more common, especially in sort of high dollar restaurants. Do you think that high income people who are looking to buy those types of cheeses and stuff like that, or they're a little bit more like less averse perhaps to spending a little bit more money on cheese or something like that? Is price point like really reflecting quality in that case, regardless of where it's from? Or do you feel like people are still a little bit kind of, you know, oh, I could get Tillamook anyways or something like that, and I'd just be happy?
I don't put Tillamook cheese on my cheese platter, so I don't.
It's great. I love the
Yeah.
white cheddar. It's fantastic.
It is.
I mean, there's a range that I'll spend if I know, because the price is set on the platter. So as I'm going and looking for the varieties, and I'll kind of average out the price. So if I buy an expensive goat cheese, then I'll find a less expensive cow cheese to kind of balance that out.
Kind of for Karen and Mahogany, what other styles are you pickling? Since we're talking about other goat and sheep, and do you ever get a chance to go back and teach some of that pickling?
Well, no to the second question.
Okay.
I'm kind of busy
Yeah.
opening up a pickle shop in Tacoma. But I actually kind of have a fantasy of one day maybe I'll get back into something like that, because I do love working with students. And it is fun to be around food with them. But I also will say, I made a comment one time to Chef that I can't believe all the food she has to try. Like, I don't think I could do it sometimes. Like, oh my goodness. I know I brought up some like, oh, wait a minute, what is this? So yeah, I think that's a lot. I think I have to get over that mentally, because I'm a kind of a picky eater in my personal life. And then as far as like what do I pickle? Like, not related towards cheese. I mean, I pick a lot of fruit. So that's kind of the thing that I'll be selling to stores, and I'm branding towards, PCC and Met Market type customers. And it's, pickled grapes, pickled blueberries. And then just as far as the catering side, if someone's get like a dinner for me, I would do, pickled fried chicken, or I would do a pickled okra stew, things of that nature. So I do just kind of pickle everything. One things that I would say with cheese that I never have thought about is ever pickling it. So I now that I'm in this room, I'm thinking I've never pickled cheese. I wonder if I could. I wonder if I could. Yeah.
I've had competing in the Cheesemonger Invitational, there have been people who've pickled cheese before.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 2 years, well, in 2020, somebody did pickled Midnight Moon.
Wow.
So can be done.
Okay.
Did you know what you were eating when you tried it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because people are talking, what are you doing? What are you doing? I made pickled Midnight Moon. Everybody's like, I have to try that.
What's your mic gonna be? What's your mic? Perfect pairing.
How much do you use from an ingredient standpoint in your cooking that would be considered local? Or is that an imperative? Talked about cheese boards, catering, those kinds of things, but in just, in actual ingredient cheese for variety of dishes. Is that something you think about? Something that's
I would say depending on the station. So deli, super easy. Pizza, not so much. So I've tried some different cheeses, and the pizzas they're not what the customer is looking for, or it's too hard for us to work with. But yeah, besides pizza, other stations I can incorporate it pretty easily. I'd say deli and salad bar are the easiest.
And is there value to that for your customer to be able to call that out in a sense? Like,
I would say my first half of my time at the foundation, it was demographics really changed now that we've come back. I mean, a lot of things are different for us now. including a lot of the employees. So kind of re-educating and building that back up is in the works. But and I'm talking cafe specific, catering, sure, but cafes, that's where we're interacting more with people, because the catering, no cooks are out there.
Right.
So, you know, educating front of house, I guess, going out to the buffets, but you know, the made to order stuff.
And I would say if it sounds really sexy on the menu, then I can sell it, and something it's going with something that's that I can make a profit on, I would maybe put it on. Otherwise, I'm showing local cheese individually because of the price point in most cases. But you know, if you put Kugel on a burger, I mean, people are crazy for it, right? And or something that they associate, you know, maybe it's a Beecher's. But I will always utilize you know, if I need to use something up, I'll use a local cheese in a special or something like that. But otherwise, I would probably be featuring it on the cheese plate.
And I can just say I give people ranges, so I let them kind of choose when catering. So I'll let them know, hey, this is going to be, you can get 2 cheeses on this board, and this is going to feed, you know, 20 people, or we can go, you know, this price point a little bit higher, and you can have, and then I'll start naming local purveyors that I'm going to use. And I said, you know, this tray can be a little bit more local, you know, oriented, and if that's their choice, and they go there, but the price has to go up. And so I would say it's 50-50 on how people choose sometimes. And, you know, I think it depends on the event. Obviously, it depends on the demographics. When I'm working with the winery, obviously they usually choose the local, more expensive setup. And then when I'm working with bars and things like that, it'll be more individual cheeses and smaller portions that are price point is lower. And honestly, they're drinking with beer. So I'm pairing it with beer when I think about it. So it's just a little different.
Any other questions from the internet or from the room?
I think you said something really cool, Karen. I have a question, and just you reminded me of when I first started cheese making and was doing a lot more like educational events and traveling. And I went to Vermont and stopped, you know, on the road at like a gas station to get lunch. And I got like a burger, a sandwich or something. And it had like Cabot cheddar on it, or like Green Mountain blue cheese on it, or something that was to me very different than what, like on the West Coast, I grew up eating Tillamook cheddar, which is local and great. But, you know, I think there's a lot of other flavors of cheese that, like in Vermont, at least, the local culinary scene really incorporated, and I saw that more actually than I saw like cheese plates and the cheeses being featured on their own. And I guess I just kind of think, I guess my question is, do you think the Northwest could look at cheese in that format as the future, rather than just always being this isolated, very high priced thing? Because I just find, like, even in my home cooking, sometimes, like you said, that flagship on a burger is like very eye-opening.
Yeah.
And it changes how you think of food, and yeah, even sometimes they're using a little bit less cheddar.
And I said Cougar Gold because I'm a Coug, but
anyway. I love all cheddar. I love all cheddar.
To bring it full circle, Kurt went to
Classic
Washington
Coug
State
moment.
and designed it after that. So
Yeah,
it's a win-win.
I think, well, I don't know, but that's a volume, right? It seems to me like at the moment, most local producers are smaller volume. And so then that makes the price to be sustainable. But I mean, there's more, I think there's more room. I don't know, Paul, I think might be able to answer that a little better than me, because he's.
I'm trying to put together a story. I don't know if it's going to come out right. We had a special, I think it was on grill, and I don't even remember what the product was. I think it was like a type of fish from a specific vendor or something, but I menued it and I called the name out. And this is this is what I run into a lot. Anyway, the person came up and said, "Oh, is that I can't remember the scenario, that's why it's not going to come out right. It's not going to make sense." But they asked about, let's just say it was fish, and they were like, "Oh, is that the John Boy fish, and they thought that was the type of fish, not the fishing vessel that it came from. And so I think on like my end, educating more and making it clear in the menu writing, because we will do that. I mean, I use local beef and local fish and local cheese, but when these people come into the cafe, they're busy, they're having meetings, they're not really always focused on the interaction and or the verb, like, because we'll put up marketing, but there's just so much going on. It's like the last thing for them to kind of pay attention to at that time.
Yeah, and I think everybody in this room and on the webs does it in this way too, through education. We're trying to make that story that you're both explaining in a way, whether the person is tuned out or whether they're on the road trip, that it becomes a part of the culture. Like, so it isn't weird for me to see in Washington, as opposed to Vermont, a cheese plate or platter, or when you're in Edmonds and someone says, well, how do I use that? And everything, Janae, that you do through all the podcasting, it does that. How can we do that as a group year over year, make it not seem like such an outside thing? When you do it, all three of you do it in everything that you're explaining through your vocation, but where pedagogy meets cheese in a sense, right? And when it isn't a question anymore, it's part of the culture.
So there should be, even if I think what you're saying is like the people are so busy they can't really take note of.
Yeah,
"Hey,
and
I'm using this
appreciate it.
cool ingredient, but what they might remember is that really tasted good.
Yeah, the mind-blowing
Like,
experience.
that was really good. I don't know why, but maybe next time I come back here, I'll find out.
Yeah.
But there is a cost thing there too, I guess. That's part of the calculation, like how much, maybe I think that's, and I don't know what the answer is, but there is a cost calculation for sure. If you're using Reggiano on everything you make, you probably aren't going to be using quite as much, right? But you're going to be getting a much bigger flavor. And so at the end of the day, that may be just fine from a food cost standpoint, right? But it's a calculation you have to kind of play with.
Still won't be full, yeah.
Well, and you want to make the difference. You want to make a difference.
But it's also, I think that cheesemakers are committed to their craft, and we're also committed to like supporting the local food scene, so that I think that there's something there where there's the cost piece, but there's another layer, right? That we are committed to having a local food scene and to having access to these beautiful flavors and to have relationships with cheesemakers and farmers and so forth. So there's a cost, but it's not the whole picture.
No, and I would argue that the cost sort of trumps the conversation when in fact maybe it shouldn't, and there's a win that can come out of it. Then you just have to maybe make sure the menu reflects enough so that the flavor is there, but it's not blowing your costs out of the water, right?
Well,
Right.
I would just say one thing that we did at Terra Plata with Chef Tamara Murphy, and she's really well known for doing cheeses. She had Brasa, the cheese thing, so she's on it with the cheese, so we don't play around there. And obviously we'd have the big expensive cheese board, but what she also would do is we had a burger, which was the one thing that was under $20 on her menu, and it had taleggio, a slice of taleggio on the imported, and people loved it.
Right.
And that's a cheese that you don't normally see on cheese boards that often on its own. That's a cheese that I would never notice the average American buying for the household. But when they had those burgers, they loved it. And almost everybody would ask, when they didn't read on the menu, what was that cheese on that burger? So that's the way I think you're saying, a way to use something that they can't just buy normally and use it in a way that's not on a cheese board, that is memorable and that people think, oh, I'm coming in for that burger because of that cheese.
Yeah, take it a step further and swipe it out with the Daniel's Artisan kind of washed, and then tell that same story but not imported. Say, oh, it's similar to this thing you might have known, but it's local. It's in Ferndale.
Like I just heard, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna use Cougar Gold on my next burger I do for another thing, because I just kind of put it all together. Like, oh my goodness, that's perfect actually for a burger. Why would I have not thought about that? So thank you, Chef.
And it seems we always come back to know your why.
Yeah.
The Simon Snack, I used this when I first started in cheese. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. But I mean, that can be all, price has to match that story too. And if you can put those two together, then again, it becomes part of the culture again.
But that's it, because Cougar Gold is kind of expensive, right? That little tin.
Depends
and
how
so
you
that-
buy it.
Right, it's expensive, right? So it's not achievable for the average person, but you put it on a burger in a smaller portion,
I
1
see.
ounce. A restaurant can make money off of it still, the customer can try it for the first time. It gets them wanting to possibly buy that tin for the New Year's Eve party, right? And that's a treat. And
Well-
that's to me how cheese
Yeah.
could evolve.
And that translates into people coming into like our cheese shops
Yeah.
and saying,
Asking.
do you have that can of cheese? And then that's $60 and they're like, that's fine.
Yep.
I'll take it.
And so many places are portioning that out more than I've seen too, right? More places are cutting down Cougar Gold. Are you guys all doing it?
Yeah, we are.
Because I've been in a lot of grocery stores lately and they're not doing that there. And that's the problem, I think.
That's definitely one of our selling points with that one is trying to, because we have people coming in to buy such smaller chunks.
Yeah.
But we want people to know the Cougar Gold, especially people, we used to be the Cheesemongers table,
Yeah.
down in Evans, and
Yeah.
that was like every year Christmas time was the stocking stuffer was Cougar Gold.
Yeah.
And everyone would come in and buy the tin, but when we switched over to Vindaro, some of the new like wine enthusiasts that came in were like, the whole tin,
The
that's a
whole
lot.
tin,
So
yeah.
we're breaking it down. It's actually on our current cheese boards right now, because we wanted to get that out there. And then as we're doing that, it is that same thing of like, oh, I could buy this little piece or I could get the whole tin.
And then
it's pretty
education, as
interesting.
we've all been saying, right, that
Yeah.
it's not gonna go bad per se. We're gonna take care of it.
Yes.
You're gonna show them how, I mean, all the things we all do.
Yes.
Most of us do that are on the front line anyways.
We're all linked. One big ecosystem. Any final questions for our guests?
It's not a question, but I think you said something nice, Courtney. We're all one big ecosystem. And I want to say thank you to the 3 guest panel, Paul, Mahogany, Karen, really the job that you're doing, which is putting good local food where you can with the plates that you do and the work that you do. It elevates the life of anybody that's then eating it. Just the nutrition, obviously, element of cheese, I think is worth touching on, and still, pound for pound, it's a good source of protein and calcium and a lot of other nutrients and minerals. And you're right, it has to be priced appropriately. If I can go and buy like carne asada for $17 a pound or $16 a pound, I need to be able to buy a pound of cheese for, the same $17, $20 a pound if I'm looking for protein and nutrition. And just thank you for like thinking of local cheese as that, because when you don't, or when it's not available, like I grew up on the east side of the state and I didn't eat good cheese. I ate Tillamook cheddar, which is a good local cheese, but I had to go to San Luis Obispo to buy like a nice white cheddar from Ireland. And it was a college town. And like when we moved to the west side in like the college town that we live in, Bellingham, you get this much more diverse experience, even as a young person, to kind of go back to the academy side of things. I think when you're in an area or part of an ecosystem where good cheese is even available, it starts people thinking about their food choices earlier in life. And I wish I would have started earlier in life, but thank you for doing what you do.
You're saying nice things.
And thank you all 3 for coming and talking to us and answering our questions today. This was a great conversation. I hope you enjoyed being here and talking to us, and hope everybody got something out of it. So yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
Definitely gonna be there. Okay. Are there any? We just have 7 minutes left. Are there any last questions, concerns, grievances? Any questions anybody has, or anything they want to bring up or announce, or no?
Is anyone planning to go down to the Oregon festival. You're going? Cool. We're driving down there tonight too. So
Oh, for
wanted to gauge the room to see if anyone is going down.
Cheesemaker Education.
The Cheesemaker Education Day in Corvallis. Yeah.
Yeah. I know Mark Bates is going to, and Julia Powers, who just got offline, is I think
was driving
on her way there right now. So
yeah. That'll be fun.
yeah. Wish I could go. I have an event tomorrow. And I'm here now. So.
I saw that. Wait, in Burien, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The raclette pop-up tomorrow. We are serving Philomena. So local cheese on the menu. Oh, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, whether you tuned in online or in person. It was really lovely to see everybody and share this time together. However we were present. Thank you to everybody who physically came here and fought for a parking spot and paid for probably a lot of money worth of parking. I appreciate all of you so much for that. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for spending your time here today, and looking forward to getting us together in person more in the future. So thank you.
Thank you.